Hey, yeah, what's up? This disciple Marcello Courage Rain back up in this anti-Illuminati all day, anti-telepathy all day, anti-America all day, and everybody with him. So, what I want to do is cover basically the the gradual aging of an empire. Okay, so when I'm talking about an empire, I'm talking about a government, a system, the system of the government, the politics thereof, the laws thereof, the cultures thereof. Okay? So every culture, every empire goes through a genesis, golden age, and a fall. This has been history. I mean, this is how it's been the whole time. A genesis, a bit using the term for the first book of the Bible, like the beginning, a Genesis, a golden age, and a fall. So let's look at America. The Genesis was obviously, it was treacherous, slavery, killing of the Native Americans, okay? Establishing colonies throughout America. This was the Genesis. This is how it started. Okay? The Genesis in any empire isn't usually it probably is not gonna be good, even if it wasn't even if it's not slavery, it's gonna be some type of conquering. So there's gonna be a lot of blood on the people that's starting a genesis of an empire. That's usually the case. Going with history. There's a conquering effect. It doesn't just become, it doesn't just grow up. They have to conquer other peoples, usually without really looking at it all, looking at each empire separately. It's safe to say that most empires, the genesis of most empires start out bloody. Okay? Then it progresses. It gets, you know, the blood is washed off. You become civilized after you get a couple meals in your stomach. You should. And then you come to a golden age where you're more sophisticated and you're less barbaric, you're less animalistic, because now you have enjoyed the comforts of good living, rich living. So by the time most empires get to their golden age, well, let me just stick with America. By the time America got to her golden age, I would say that would be probably what? Mm, uh, what would be the golden age? I would say for America outside of African Americans, I would say that could start as early as the 60s until the 90s, all the way through the 90s. Because remind you, besides the politics, besides all the stuff, how everyone was suffering, look at how America was in the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, and the 90s as far as technology, military strength, and just innovation, period, and culture, period. They were making buku money. They were making all types of money. They were creating all type of situations to create more money on top of more money. So the white culture was living wonderful in the 60s and 70s in California, New York City. Can you imagine all the money that was made? And then the 80s, and then the music and the culture and everything came. And then just more innovation, more innovation, more innovation, more innovation of culture, just more networking and everything. So I would say the golden age, in my opinion, will be between about 1960 to 2000. Because after 9/11, that was the beginning of the fall. Unfortunately, uh, yeah, it just was a lot of inconsistencies with that story. It was a lot of inconsistencies with what happened with 9/11, and now you see corruption and everything creeping in, and that's where the fall comes. It's the Genesis, the golden age, and then you have corruption, or in the fall. The fall is caused by corruption. The fall is caused by indecencies, of the authorities usually, and it can be by the community too. But the golden age, let me go back to that. The golden age was it was basically the time where America was striving. At this time, when they was making all that money in the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, and the 90s, that's when they should have helped black people, rose black people to the throne. The African American community should have ascended to the throne, especially after Martin Luther King Jr. was assassinated. This country is not good with politicking with the African American community. America has been horrible with politicking with the African American community. When they lost, when the African Americans lost their leader, Martin Luther King Jr., when they lost him, instantly there should have been authority retributions, there should have been power retributions. There should have been rewards of authority and power in America. Because when he died, that right there proved first that the African American man rose up competent in mind, perceiving himself, perceiving his people, perceiving his position in America, and still willing to unite with all the country after all that had been done. That was a due paid in itself. That was an accomplishment in itself that should have been rewarded, that America should have rewarded the African American community authority, a powerful authority in America after that. So that was one mistake. I'm showing you where the golden age failed in America. I'm showing you where it failed. Okay? Also, the crack epidemic. Okay? This is also, I would say, this was part of the fall of America too, because no one wants to be honest that a lot of the dope was let in. A lot of the authorities were paid off, and this was a golden age of corruption. This was a golden age of corruption, and I would say that that started with the whole drug trade period, because everybody was making money. And if we're gonna lie to her, we're gonna sit here and lie and act like, people that wasn't supposed to be making money wasn't making money. If we're gonna sit here and act like the people that wasn't supposed to be making money off of dope wasn't making money, then we're lying to ourselves. They were making money. The authorities, people down in Florida, letting the dope come in. They were turning a blind eye to all that coke coming in. That's what you got to look at. This affected the golden age, but at the same time, this was separated from the American empire as an American problem. So a lot of Americans were sitting back, drinking, having beautiful holidays while the crack epidemic was going on. While there were people that were strung out on crack and families destroyed from gang violence, from the crack selling and drug violence, drug wars. Okay, while that was going on, the American empire was still enjoying its golden age, its golden time. And that's what angered so many people, because America was enjoying the whole time, really, honestly. America enjoyed its genesis and its golden age separate from the black experience. So while white America was experiencing the genesis, the golden age, they were drinking, having great Christmases, beautiful Christmases. While they were doing that, the African American experience was a whole other experience altogether. Now, there were many black people that joined the white American golden age of America. They joined that and enjoyed the fruits. But for the most part, there has never been a golden age for African Americans in America. There has never been a golden age. Everybody wants to bring up Black Wall Street? That's not a golden age. That's a moment in time. Some would even say a fluke. It hasn't happened again. The bottom line is, there's never been a quote unquote African American golden age in America. Okay, this is also another dynamic that was a means to an end. This was another situation that caused America to begin to decline into corruption and a fall of their empire. Because the African Americans paid too many dues not to have a proper seat at the table. There has not been a proper seat at the table. And that's the bottom line. So when you understand the spiritual world and you understand karma and things like that, reaping what you sow, you can't expect America to be on top and continue to thrive when its greatest co-worker was not properly seated at the proper seat at the table that America eats from. Because America never gave them a proper seat at the table, then the karma came back. The karma that became a fall. These are the things that people don't look at because they still, like I said, the white American experience is separate from the black American experience. So people don't even look at it. They don't even consider this as the reason why it's not what it is. They're not considering it. You know, and it's like blacks were never good enough to sit at this table, but they're good enough to work behind the scenes. So that's why you have a decline in the golden age, because it was supposed the the karma should have been okay. I'm not talking about what other empires did in history. I'm talking about here. They should have came to the conclusion, okay, they worked, they earned their key, they have a seat at the table. Okay? A proper seat, not looking at race, not looking at that at all. But what happened was the racism, the racist authorities in the scene way back that's not seen by the public eyes. The racist scene never stopped in America. The white racist scene never ceased to exist. They continued to fuel who they were, and they continued to fuel what they had. This was also going along with the genesis, obviously, and the golden age of the Empire of America. The racist people, the racist scene, if you will, never ceased to exist, and it only sophisticated. So from the Genesis, it was whipping you, doing this, doing bad to you. Now it's sophisticated to laws. Now it's sophisticated to that. You see what I'm saying? And so now racism is sophisticated in the laws. You can't beat them. You can't beat us. You can't whip us. You can't enslave us. But I can put these laws out here to stop. They can control you. That's what they're doing. This is how it's sophisticated. And when you understand this, you'll understand that racism did not cease to exist. It just sophisticated itself. Now it's way more sophisticated. Now it's more in codes than ever now. Because now people understand the laws are racist. So now they had to jump up to another energy. They had to jump up to another level, some other type of racism, some other type of control, you know. And I believe one of them it's police killings. How is it that police kill over and over again, and they see it on the news and they make the same mistake? I think some of these, not all of them, I think some of them are soldiers that are willing to die for the control of African Americans to remain intact. The control over African Americans to remain intact. They're willing to shoot and kill to put the people down and make them feel inferior, make them feel oppressed, make them feel fearful, to therefore keep the white control over the community. These people are willing to lie down their lives. In real war, Americans, you gotta understand, some people are willing to die. Some people are willing to give up their freedom to control and to control the African Americans and to keep control as white people. How else would they control you? If you was not shot down in your neighborhoods, then you will begin to get a sense of confidence and you will have no fear of the white man. Your only fear of the white man is the police. I'm saying it again. Your only fear of the racist white America and how white America makes you feel fearful of them is police that's armed with guns that you can't necessarily get. Let's put it this way: guns you don't have. They walk around armed. They walk around. They walk around on top of you, riding by, driving by. This is psychological. Even the sirens, all psychological. That's all psychological. If there was no gun-toting white Americans in your neighborhoods, which it should be African Americans in African neighborhoods. I mean, it just only makes sense to me. They relate to each other. They understand each other. Okay? The white man, the white America can only keep this psychological authority and power over you by going into your neighborhoods and by having to shoot some people and sacrifice their freedom. If they don't do that, then you may rise up, they may lose their grip on their power. They gotta shoot people to keep people in check. You don't believe me, do you? You don't believe me because you don't know how thirsty racist people are to stay in power. You don't know how desperate they are to stay in power right now. So, because look at it. I'm gonna make part 2 of this because I gotta get this. How is it that, like I said, how is it they can continue, they shoot each other, they continue to shoot each other. Shoot black people, the police. They shoot people over and over again. You see it on TV. Now, any police would say, okay, I'm not gonna make the same mistake that I seen last month. You see the same pattern over and over again. Even if you look at some of the dates, it's like at one point, from 2014 to now, in between all of that, from the past 7 months, the past 7 years, it was like every other 2 months, 3 months, every 6 months, something like that. It was about every 4 to 6 months there was a shooting, a police shooting. I don't know if y'all remember that. Every 4 to 6 months there was something. There was some type of police situation, and I believe that this was there was something that was going on with the African American community progressing, and they wanted to bring the African American community back down by randomly shooting people and bringing African Americans back down to race, back down to being less confident, back down to feeling inferior, and even children feeling inferior to other races and feeling that they're less than. This is all control, because you can't explain how the police can sit and look and make the same mistakes. And it's mistakes they could have avoided. These, in my opinion, not every one of them, but on the average, a good percentage, I would say 65%, 50 to 65% has to be people that are foot soldiers for racist whites staying in authority, for white America staying in authority. But you might as well say racist white, because you can't be a non-racist white people doing something like that. I mean, you can't have an objective for white people doing something like that. You have to obviously have an objective that excludes others. So this is the truth. You can't explain it any other way. And I started to see it. I said, it's happening too often. It keeps happening over and over and over again. This was a conditioning for us to feel inferior, to feel controlled, to to feel less than, and therefore still fear white America, and therefore white America still energy wise, and some would say perspective, keep their power. They get to keep their power because now you're taking the heart of the people. You're taking the heart of the people. You're taking the perspective of the people in America, and they're feeling like they can't get ahead. They're feeling like they can't be equal. This affects everyone, subconsciously or conscious. I mean, all to the forefront of your mind. It affects you. It affects how you move. If there was nobody shooting you, if there was nobody shooting you, killing you, then how would you move? You would be more confident. You would, as black people, you would be standing up. You'd be happy. You'd be walking around feeling good. But look how you walking now. You feel me? Now somebody's shooting you. Look how you got to walk around. You see what I'm saying? You got to look at that. That's psychological control. That's to make you feel these shootings were too consistent and frequent to be normal. This was a desperate attempt in this society to keep white America in psychological control and I would say energy control. The heart feeling, our heart staying beneath theirs, our soul and our energy feeling like we can't lift up to where they at. You know what I'm saying? Pulling us down and lifting them up. You know what I'm saying? So you got to look at that. I'm coming back to part 2.